Welcome in 365 Sports. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with us every week. And John, you come to Waco every year and you have the annual softball tournament, which I played in a couple times. And the last time forced me into retirement because I tore both hamstrings rounding third base, trying to score in a game that our team was up by like 12 or 13 runs anyway. One of the dumbest things I've ever done in my life, but still, it's a fun time.
People still talk about that injury, Paul.
Yeah, I'm sure they do. I remember, because you kind of, I didn't pass out, but you kind of, everything goes black for a second when you're in that much pain. And then Arthur Rhodes is like leaning over me like, "Hey, you okay, buddy?" I'm like, "No, I'm dying, Arthur." It's like, I think I got shot in both legs at once. I don't know how it happened. I don't know who's out in left field, but man. And then Q tagged me out. Like, he ran in from left field and tagged me out for spite. That's a true friend there, John. But you are coming in for the softball tournament this weekend.
We've done it every year since 1983. The current or former Trip guys from recent eras against all us old guys. Now we have so many kids and grandkids we bring in. We play with the Baylor Women's Field, play 2 games, and we head over to George's for lunch. We have dinner at the Hall of Fame Friday. That's Saturday. Friday, we have a reunion in the private room over at Paparolo's. And you have a standing invitation to come back. Q has come back the last 3 years from Las Vegas, where he does Raider Nation and a national show on ESPN. And I do a weekly with him out there. And I told him I'm not sugarcoating it this year. He doesn't hit the ball well. I'm going to tell all his listeners how he's actually played. But it's so much fun because we started this back when I worked at the Trib in 73, 74, and 75. Only back then we played hardball.
Well, I mean, eventually you have to give up some of those things, John. But you are very famous, though, for bringing in ringers.
And I got some ringers coming in this time as well. But Jay Black's son Tyler's bringing in a couple of the Bruners. And we're trying to stack the deck because the Trib's good at that too, and they whacked us last year. So we've got to get revenge. And Paul, you're welcome to come out anytime, even if you just coach in third base.
My wife and I had just started, not even dating. We were talking then. It was hadn't even gone on a date yet. And I remember she texted me as I was laying on the bench. And she's like, "Hey, how's your softball game going?" I'm like, "It was going good until about 15 minutes ago." Yeah. And here's another thing you'll get a kick out of, John. Steve Fallon had to wait with me for 45 minutes or an hour for my mom and my uncle to come and get me so they could take my car home. And they live 10 minutes from the park. And I was like, or my mom lives 10 minutes from the park. And I got there and I was like, "Mom, what took so long?" She's like, "Well, we had to get ready." I'm like, "You're not going to a debutante ball. I'm laying on a bench here."
Know that.
Yeah.
Steve Fallon will be back. Used to, Steve could actually hit and get a ball out of the batter's box. He has given himself a nickname. He's now long ball Fallon. And I'm thinking if we move home plate just inside the left field fence, he might actually hit one over the fence like he did when he could play 40 years ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I mean, look, he's common to give himself nicknames. I hosted a radio show with him for 2.5, 3 years. And, he was always, doing that. I mean, he went through one time where he wanted everybody to call him Big Daddy, but I know it didn't take. So,
oh boy, I got to give him grief about that.
He may not even remember. He's old now, John. You're the same age, but he is way older than you.
Yeah, I will make sure he remembers Big Daddy.
Yeah. It's like, yeah, you should. Or I think he said in the air, I was like, "Listen, Paul, you got to listen to Big Daddy here." And I was like, "Okay."
That sounds like Steve.
Yeah, absolutely. So
I got to tell you one quick Steve Fallon story, and because this is a time when there's not a lot going on in football.
Mm-hmm.
When we were in high school at Richfield, which is now Waco High, one day I think I was a junior and I'd met a girl and we made out a lot. She put a lot of hickeys on my neck. And Steve saw me. He said, "Wow, who did that?" And I told him. And he said, well, if you don't want to be embarrassed, you can get them to go away. I said, how? He said, rub Crest toothpaste into each of them and they'll disappear. And I said, okay. So I went to school the next day. Everybody's looking at my neck. And one person said, what'd you do to your neck? I said, can you still see them? They see what? Your ickies or your Crest toothpaste? I said, well, it's supposed to make them go away. Who told you that, Fallon? And you believed it? And you talk about feeling like a dope. I'm rocking around with Crest toothpaste all over my neck, and I was an idiot.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Oh my God. I'm dying. That's him. That's him to a T. So John, one of the things you've talked about when we talk about the Browns and why they have been so unsuccessful at quarterback is that they have that lake effect snow and the wind and all these things. And the stadium's really hard, like it is in Chicago, for quarterbacks to consistently be good game after game there because the weather in the fall and the winter is very unpredictable. Well, now the Browns are putting an amazing looking domed stadium. Will that change their stars at quarterback, or since the Haslams still own them, are they still screwed?
Absolutely, it will change. They have had one 4,000-yard quarterback in history. That was Brian Sipe in 1980 when they were real good. Lost in the Raiders in the playoffs. Raiders won the Super Bowl. And same in Chicago. They want to move to the suburbs. You get those stadiums off the Great Lakes, and you won't have the same wind problems. And it doesn't matter if it's September and it's 90 degrees. It's still windy. That's why they have to have big-time running games, and if they don't, they're not going to be good. So I would think Caleb Williams, if everything goes according to plan, he might be like in his fifth year when the Bears move in their new stadium. Browns very well could be looking at the number one overall pick next year and get another quarterback, assuming Dylan Gabriel or Shadur Sanders doesn't work out. But in the fans, even though a lot of the fans are complaining, who wants to sit there? I've been in that stadium when it's 5 degrees and the wind's blowing so hard, I almost blew away. Nobody likes those conditions. And it's about the airport. The airport's like 10 minutes from downtown. It's not a long distance. So it's not in Cleveland. And so a lot of people you'll see a lot of building going up even more around the airport area, and it will hurt downtown businesses.
Yeah, that's for sure. That airport also not one of my favorites, John. Their security.
Oh no, it's terrible.
It's awful. But the Haslams, they're an interesting owner case to me because they're kind of like the worst version of Jerry Jones in that they seem to really care about the Browns, but they're just not very good at owning a team.
That's because they need to do like good owners do, stay out of it, provide the money to the people you hire to do their job. If they don't do their job, fire them, but stay out of it. Don't make them draft a Shadur Sanders. Don't make them go against their wishes and say, well, we'll give them $230 million guaranteed. That's never been done. Stay out of it. Keep up with what's going on. Sign off on the big money things, but don't force your general manager to make personnel decisions he doesn't believe you should make.
John, we talked about the Kevin Durant trade, which might include 7 teams now, and God knows who is going places as they look to make it all work for salary cap and whatnot. But outside of that, it appears to me that the Rockets have done really well in free agency too to supplement that. Do you feel the excitement building after a really good season they had? They just didn't have all the parts necessary to really make a deep run in the Western Conference. Do you feel the excitement building now that people believe in the Rockets again?
Absolutely, Paul. The one thing they couldn't do last year is shoot outside consistently. Kevin Durant's a great outside shooter. Reed Shepherd, 3rd overall pick last year, couldn't get playing time because Fred VanVleet came in here and did a great job as point guard. So Shepherd might not get much playing time this year. But then they went and signed a free agent from the Lakers who began last season with Brooklyn, Dorian Finney Smith, who shoots 43% of threes, is a tough guy. He's a great defensive player who can guard multiple positions, and he'll replace Dylan Brooks, who was included in the trade with Phoenix for Kevin Durant. They re-signed Clint Capella, who played his first 6 years in here, a big man, but it wouldn't surprise me if he's not included in this multiple team trade they're talking about. I've never seen anything involving that many teams. I guess it's legal, but as you can imagine, people here are pumped about the Rockets. They're pumped about what the Astros are doing, continue to win despite so many injuries to pitchers, position players. May not see Alvarez this year. Jeremy Pena's on the IL, but yet the Astros are continuing to win. So it's the best time I can remember in Houston sports right now since 1980, when the Oilers were 11-5 during Love You Blue, lost at Oakland in the playoffs. The Rockets went to the finals and lost to the Celtics, and the Astros had Owen Ryan on the mound and a 3-run lead and blew it to the Phillies, kept them out of the World Series. But those were great times, and we've had so many bad times here, and right now it looks like the good times are going to roll.
John, the Astros being able to withstand all of this, and they're like, look, Altuve's still Altuve. You know, they still have some guys, but you know, Cam Smith is a rookie. He's been playing really, really well lately. The rest of the guys on the roster have either underachieved or just been kind of career role players in their life. Is that because the culture has been set up so well there for so long, whether it is Dusty Baker or Joe Espada?
Joe Espada drives me crazy, and he is doing a fabulous job. And A.J. Hinch from Detroit gets all the love when they talk about AL Manager of the Year when Hinch has got his guys are healthy. And Espada has just done a great job. So have his coaches. Christian Walker, $20 million a year, first base, huge disappointment. Jose Altuve hitting 30 points less than what he usually does. Yainer Diaz, 59 points less than what he did last year. When Jake Myers is your second best hitter, he usually hits around 200, is hitting 300, you know something's screwed up. And something I'm wondering here, Framber Valdez and Hunter Brown have been great. Back of their bullpen, Brian Abreu and Josh Hader have been fantastic. Framber's a free agent after this year. When you see what they got with Cam Smith and third baseman Isak Paredes, their leading home run hitter and RBI guy, would they be tempted to trade Framber to another contender and basically take themselves out of the World Series? I don't think they'll do it unless they're at Crater, but the division's not good enough for them to do that. But man, Framber's going to walk after the season and be just the latest star to leave here because Jim Crane will not overpay for players.
Well, and you know, I'm sure there's a lot of Astros fans that would love to see him proven wrong, like, and be like, hey, you got to keep these guys. But so far, so good, John. I mean, it's hard to win World Series. It's hard to continually contend, but for whatever reason, they kind of overcome. Last year, they started out really bad and they got better. You know, it just, you know, they're doing things right somewhere.
Mariners had a 10-game lead in June last year, and the Astros beat them by 5. And then, by the way, Paul, do they still have a team in Arlington?
Look, any day now, they're gonna hit their stride. The Rangers, you know, I think it is like you had your big moment, but then you also can't control when everybody gets old at once, right? That's, you know, and they have good pitching, but then the guy gets hurt. They're a little bit star-crossed since that World Series, but
DeGrom has been unbelievable this season,
mm-hmm.
and you got one of the all-time great managers. Every time I look up, the Angels are ahead of the Rangers. And I'm trying to figure out what in the world's happening because when they won the World Series, they had a bunch of good young players.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm reading a thing in Athletic about teams willing to sell, and they've got the Rangers like willing to sell despite having so many good young players. But it is amazing, and I'm sure they'll finish ahead of the Rangers. But the Astros are very fortunate to be playing in a division in which Seattle can't get out of its way. Cal Raleigh has been the best hitting catcher in history up to this point, and he still can't win. And he's going to come back down to earth at some point. But the Astros, there's no great, only the best team in the American League is Detroit. Does Detroit scare anybody like the Dodgers do? I don't think so. So it's not out of the realm of possibility. The Astros could contend for another World Series.
Yeah. By the way, where did Big Dumper go to college, John? That's another Florida State Seminole right there.
No, he is a hell of a player, a hell of a guy, a hell of a defensive player, and they were smart. I think they extended him already
last year,
and now that is a steal.
Yeah, absolutely. John, have a happy 4th. I will try to get out at least to maybe George's afterwards.
Well, come see us at George's or come by the hall Saturday night, and we'd love to see you.
All right. John McClain, Hall of Fame columnist with here. Happy 4th, John.
Same to you, Paul.
All right. That's going to do it for John McClain.